Hello. We are making a video with the baby dog. And Paul and I, we were just talking for a long time, maybe 2 hours, about the world situation, Iran, Venezuela, Russia, Ukraine, the entire world. We're also talking about Africa and the situation there. We're very concerned. We're very worried about the animals and the people and the children suffering in different places around the globe. And like I said in my previous videos, when we get deeper into any kind of subject, particularly geopolitical, society questions, we get deeper into a philosophical debate about what is good, what is bad, what needs to be done, what needs to be avoided, how we go about different things. So I think it's very important that we discuss this, that we don't shy away from critical subjects like those on how to do geopolitical world society policing. How this law enforcement should be conducted in individual countries as well as globally. Okay, so as the ETs already said, we need to move away from tyrannical dictatorships. Okay, so we need to move away from corporate tyrannical dictatorship. We need to move away from the centralization of vested interest that's happening worldwide with all of their collaboration groups, their subgroups of organized crime. That's how they function. That's how they function behind the scenes. That's how they function in the underground. That's all one thing, okay? And in the overground and in the overland or in the official public places, they will disguise themselves as valid leadership and they will disguise themselves as legally appointed, which they're not. Okay. They even declare themselves as nominated or voted for or elected, which in a lot of cases that's not true at all. In most countries, including the ones that call themselves democratic, the elections are not done democratically. The elections have not been democratic with when the Biden criminals got into the government. That was not democratic. They did voter fraud. They did unbelievable public manipulation, slander, propaganda, misinformation, anti-information, misleading information, targeting certain groups of people, using their psychology, using their specific themes. It wouldn't matter which door they come into, which group they target. All groups and all affiliations are systematically targeted by the underworld tyrannical dictators. I used to call it the corporate agenda. Okay, so, but there are some good corporations. There are some corporations in between, and there are gray zone type of corporations that are not necessarily on board with an underworld government. So that's why I don't want to call it corporate agenda anymore. I'll just call it the underworld. Okay. The underworld is governed by vested interest, by ruthless dictators and ruthless business people. Evil people. Very, very very I could call it mentally ill, but it's more genetic, and it's caused by a bunch of things. So people that have completely lost touch with empathy, kindness, love. They have lost touch with that for generations already. Their new generations have never ever learned anything about ethics. They also have their, I believe they have their underground schools where they don't teach anything about ethics. Those are the ones that want to bring Somalians into the country. Those are the ones that want to get violent criminals out of prison, because for different reasons. For first of all, if they ever get caught, they don't want to face consequences. And also, they want all of these violent, ruthless criminals to be working for them as their collaborators, as their middlemen and their snipers, and so on. So that's why they have a vested interest in going easy on crime, which in itself is a criminal thing, okay, because it costs millions of animals and children and adults their lives and their minds. As I already mentioned in my very last video at the other house, I talked about that couple that was kidnapped at Crater Lake National Park by some very, very horrific, monstrous person who very likely, most likely, I think, was in a contract or in some kind of collaboration with the underworld. Okay, so they will set up these bunkers for those people. That's why they want all of these violent, sadistic people. They want them to be free, because they can use these violent people to be there, to do the dirty work for them. Many of the underworld people would never get their hands bloody, but they will hire people that are sadistic. They want sadistic people for that, because those sadistic people won't even ask for that much in return for these jobs. So they want the sickest of all sickest monsters to do the dirty work for them, to get the hikers, keep them tied up in a bunker, and then take their organs, use them for everything that they can harvest, and they call it harvest. They view people like you would view a fruit on a tree. Okay, we harvest an apple, we eat it, we throw the housing into the compost bin. So they take a woman and rape her repeatedly. Then, if she gets pregnant, they will harvest the baby. They get $500,000 for a white baby. Everyone in this collaboration will be paid by that. And then they will, after they harvest the baby, then they will take her organs, and then they will drain her of all of her blood, and then they will throw her onto a pile of dead bodies. Okay. And that's the situation. It is an ugly, ugly situation on this planet. And they also have other institutions. They have some also official hospitals where stuff like this is happening on that scale, on that level, or somewhere in that range. Okay, where these kind of things happen. When they feel like they get away with it, they will take fullest advantage of that situation. That's why it is so vitally important that people, when they go out in nature or wherever, be careful to which party you go. Okay, so be careful what people you associate with. Be very, very careful when you are young, in particular, and young women, they are the most targeted, okay, of all. Particularly shorter women, like that are like 5 foot or 5'4". Shorter women, petite women, women that are not strong, women with tender arms. Those are the most targeted because they get away with that. They can overpower them very easily. Even one man can overpower a woman like that. They would have a much harder time with me because I'm 5'9", almost 5'10", with big feet and big, strong, naturally strong and muscular body. So that would be, and I'm smart, and I'm paranoid, and I have extreme hatred and anger. So they're not as likely to mess with me. And even in LA, when I first came to LA at age 26, I bought myself these like bomber jackets, bomber leather jackets. That's before I knew all about the skins and all of that. So I never wear a skin from another living being ever again. Never buy leather again, ever. Get everything vegan, synthetic, vegetation based. Okay, so, but I bought these jackets because I already knew from watching movies that were made in the United States. These movies that already warned me about the dangers of LA, and that there are a lot of criminals and they don't respect women. So I had to, before I came to LA to do cryotherapy, I knew I was also gonna be walking a lot alone with a map in my hand, and I had to wear like tactical gear, clothing, apparel, if we want to call it that. I had to wear clothes that where I can move swiftly and fast, and I can defend myself. And I walked through Venice Beach at night like that. No one bothered me. From the far, they would probably think I'm a guy. And from closer up, they see that I'm tall and strong, and I can definitely defend myself. So, and I was in better physical shape, of course, at that time. I was not as overweight. So they would not bother me, these people. I've never been bothered. I have been hit on, and I've been, like, psychologically, I've been harassed. But like from a distance. Harassed, sexually harassed also, but from a safe distance. As soon as I get closer, they speed off very fast. I had to laugh about that. So, or I get a bunch of Mexicans in a car, totally wasted and fucked up on some kind of whiskey. They threw bottles at me and cans. and obscene stuff, obscenities and stuff. And as soon as I got closer, they would speed off with squealing tires out there on railroad in LA. Dangerous for me to go out there at night. I mean, if they have a gun, of course they can overpower me. But even a car full of Mexican men, like 10 or so, they were afraid of me. I mean, that was quite something. So for the little petite girls, you have to have a dog. You need a large guard dog. It's very, very important. Very important. So it's a difficult situation that we have here on this planet. Difficult situation. Worse than ever before. Because, like I said, way in the past, there were only pockets of civilizations. And these pockets, they were called tribes. And they had their feudal system with one leader, sometimes a benevolent leader. They were called kings. Most of them were kings, and very rarely there was a queen, that was also in charge. Queen Elizabeth, so probably the most famous one, the daughter of Henry VIII and Anne Boleyn, who married Henry VIII, and who was later beheaded by a guillotine, beheaded by a sword, I think. That's how So that was in the early 1600s when they still had the Inquisition and stuff like this. A brutal era. But still, I mean, they had some more people there already than in the 1300s. But it was still kind of tribal, everything. I mean, they had Great Britain, but it was still tribalistic to the most part. So, but like in 1200, 1100, if you go further back, like 1,000 years after Christ, 800 years after Christ, pockets of population. So 500 people here, couple of miles later, further away, another 500 people there. And so on. And then maybe one person in between, or two, some hermits that would be living in between. They hermits that wanted nothing to do with the tribe. So they were always there also. They were usually persecuted. So it was usually much safer to belong to one of the tribes, because then you get tribal protection. All of this is very difficult, but then it has other disadvantages to be part of a tribe. You have to be obedient to their leader and so on, which can be very rough if the leader is a tyrannical dictator. I would for sure do anything I can to be a hermit, to get away, which this is what we're doing here already. We're in a community, but we're living like hermits, because we don't agree with religion. We don't agree with a lot of things that people do. We want to be off-grid because we don't agree with the sewer system. We don't agree with the infrastructure in most places. We want to reform the infrastructure. We are reformists. Maybe a lot of these hermits in the past had a reformist type of brain. But at that time, they weren't doing that much environmental damage, like in the year 1000, okay? So they didn't have the means to cause that much destruction. They were brutish apes without their hands on red buttons, nuclear power stations, semi-trucks where they could run over anyone. So none of that stuff existed at that time. They didn't have computers, they didn't have technology, they didn't even have water closets yet, which are very destructive, by the way, for the planet. The entire sewer system is very, very dangerous and destructive to the planet, to the point where it causes people leukemia. The reason why is because they don't let the earthworms recycle the dung. They don't put the dung and the recycled earth back into the land, which causes soil depletion. Soil depletion causes food depletion. It causes food plant mineral depletion, which in turn causes the C word. Okay. Very serious. Causes immune deficiencies. It causes weakness. It causes endocrinological damage. Even more than the stuff that people are so concerned about. They don't even understand that this is the actual danger in the room. It's the soil depletion. So this needs to be reformed. We have to bring it back, and if there was a catastrophe, which let's hope this doesn't happen, where people had to resort back to tribal system and rudimentary means of survival, then it would cut back on environmental pollution, of course, but it would be rough as hell. So I don't wish that on the world. So what we need to do a systematic, gradual reform on infrastructure. It needs to be completely reformed. We need to put the dung back into the land, but in form of recycled dung, not raw sewage. The raw sewage has to go into designated sewage containers. And that is the only way to do it. That is the only way. So Paul and I figured this out now over the last more than 10 years. So over the last 11, 12 years, we have refined it and we have perfected it. This is how it works, okay? I've seen other people, the way they do it, and everyone has the right to do it the way they think it's the best. But the way we figured it out is you have to use large trash cans that are about 4 feet tall. You have to drill holes in them, and you have to put all bio-waste into it. You put kitchen compost in it. Make sure there is no plastic particle in it. There's no tag from a banana in it. Paul always makes that mistake. He throws banana peelings, and I keep saying you have to take these tags off. They don't decompose. Okay, they stay there for decades in your compost soil. So you have to take all of that off, all of these tags and all little clips or whatever attachments that are made out of plastic or metal. take that out, put that in the trash, and put only the bio waste materials into your kitchen bucket, into your kitchen bio waste bucket. Okay, and then you take that bucket outside and you empty it into the outdoor compost containers. And you put dog mess into it. You have to have a rake and a dust bin, okay, and you have to rake and shovel up the animal dung. You have to put all of that into those compost containers, and you have to put your own bio waste toilet material into it as well. And the way you do it is you use 5-gallon buckets for that, and you have to have 5-gallon bucket in your bathroom or garage or outdoor, like a outdoor place or a greenhouse. Okay, you have one designated area for the compost in a greenhouse, and a large commercial greenhouse that stands just on the land, okay, not with a cement slab underneath. And then you have in one corner, in one end of the greenhouse tunnel, you have your compost area. You can even have a hedge around it so that you don't constantly look at the compost containers. So you can have it as sophisticated as you like. You can have it incredibly amazing. Okay, so that gives incredible room for creativity and extreme luxury and ornamental garden and hygiene. You have it all if you do it the right way. Anything from 100-foot commercial greenhouse to a Martian dome house, okay, with Elon glass. But that is the future of architecture, okay. And then inside you have one area. It could be further out. You have one area that you can create an ornamental hedge around, okay, and inside of that area is the composting area. You bring your buckets out there, your bio waste buckets, whether it's toilet or kitchen stuff or animal dung, okay. If you have some people have horses, okay, that will amount to a more enormous pile of bio waste. So it's a lot of work to have horses. I was talking to Paul about this earlier. So I finally talked him out of any kind of animal husbandry, which he wanted to do. He is going to be 70 this year. This is going to be way too difficult. So we decided we're not going to do it. We're going to stick with permaculture and indoor garden, growing our own vegetables, okay, in an indoor space in a commercial greenhouse. And then at the end of the greenhouse you have the compost area, and it stands on the soil, on the meadow grass, okay. That's where the earthworms can get to your stuff, okay. They get through the soil into the holes in the compost containers, okay. That's why the holes have to be at least, I would say, a centimeter in diameter, so which is about half an inch, okay, half an inch hole, maybe a little bit less, maybe it could, I don't know. So some earthworms get as big as my finger, so yeah, about, I would say, a centimeter, half an inch diameter holes in it on the bottom, also on the sides, because there are moths, there are flies going through that, and they lay their eggs, and their babies are scavengers. Okay, all of these insects are scavengers. They will eat it, and they will poop out the healthy soil full of minerals for the plants to use. And then you have healthy, mineral rich, vitamin rich plants, food plants that you can harvest and eat. And then you have the perfect biodynamic life cycle. And that's how things need to be done. Okay. In Venezuela too. I've been thinking about Venezuela. So, if Venezuela becomes part of the United States, which the majority of Venezuelans want, then this will be an amazing opportunity for the country to clean itself completely up, for the country to become wealthy, for the country to become hygienic, for the country to become friendly to animals, to become kind and safe for all beings. Okay, we can transform Venezuela into a living paradise. We can transform the whole planet into a magnificent paradise, a Garden Eden. Okay, we could, if people take the time and allow themselves to think this out, to think about the consequences of their actions, to think about long-term planning, to think about environmental stewardship. Okay, so people have been very brainwashed here, but particularly in South America, where they have been brainwashed against the ecologistas, okay, the stewards of the land, the ones that look after things, the ones that want things clean, the ones that help the animals, the ones that want to prevent pollution. Okay, the public has been brainwashed against these people. The public has been told lies. They have been told ecologistas are bad. They have been told, I don't know what they will use they will pull any string they have, right? They will tell them, oh, they're against religion, or they're comrades, they're communists, and people have been brainwashed against the communists in the same way. So no political system works if the people are corrupt. Not even communism works if the people are corrupt. Okay, so we've seen this now in different places on Earth. Obviously it doesn't work. And then there's violence involved, and right there, it's finished. Okay, so it doesn't work. We can't have a system that is built on oppression and censorship and tyrannical dictatorship. We can't have that. Okay, so a benevolent dictatorship, yes, but we have complete power of one legislator. What if he's good, and what if he dies eventually? If he's not murdered, if he dies from old age, then who will be next, right? So who will be the next one that takes this person's throne? And so it's always been like so far in history, it's always been based more on prayer and faith and hope than on anything else. Okay, so Let's pray, let's hope the next one will be good too. Okay? It's good to do. Okay? I'm not saying that's wrong. But it should be based on more than just prayer. It should be based on people having had a better education about ethics, about stewardship, right? It has to be an all-comprehensive approach to this. You can't just have brainwashed people and then have to control them all the time. No, we want to unbrainwash the people so that we don't have to constantly control and police, so that the people will know better without being forced, without being governed. If you have a machine and every part in the machine is intelligent and knows how to function even on their own without some main brain governing it, then you're better off, right? If you have all-wheel drive, you'll be better off than having two-wheel drive. That's a metaphor for a political system as well. If every person, if you are some kind of nut and bolt in a machinery, and you are thinking for yourself, and you know what benefits the whole, and you know that if you benefit the whole, it will benefit you, then you could be part of a network of thinkers who can uphold and save an entire nation against the odds of even some main brain that has gone wrong. Does that make sense? I hope that makes a lot of sense. So we want to back ourselves up with safety over safety procedures and safety nets. And this is the most important thing what I'm talking about, to have people educated and thinking for the greater good and wanting the greater good. And then it is less likely that a dictator can reign over those people and make it bad if the individual people are thinking and are contributing as well to the greater good. Okay, so the best would be if everyone was their own governor, if everyone was a governor. I feel responsible for things. I feel like a governor. Okay, I feel like a governor for my own household. I feel like a governor for the whole world. If I had a chance, I would. I would not leave that untouched. I feel great responsibility, and I'll do anything I can to make the world better. And being a governor, I would have more leverage. So it would be a dream come true. But is that going to be a realistic wish? No, it's not at all a realistic wish. I still wish for it. But that's why I'm saying every single person every single individual needs to be trained to feel responsibility for their lives and for the lives of others as well. Yeah, we keep hearing people that are very right-wing or libertarian, and they'll say, "It's none of your business what I do, and don't snoop your nose in my business. And that's a very mistaken ideology. That's a mistaken view on how we live our lives. Because you and you and you and you, none of you are exempt from the whole. We're in this together, okay? If a libertarian says he just wants to pollute and I'm not allowed to look over his shoulder, then he's very, very mistaken with this, because when he pollutes, he is hurting the life of many, many, many other living beings. He may not be aware of it, okay? But that's the reality of it. So libertarianism, it doesn't hold up, okay, for that very reason. Democracy hasn't held up very well either, okay? So it's safer than dictatorship, because you don't know who the next dictator will be, right? If you give the dictator too much leverage, too much power, it's a dangerous situation. So, but if the people are systematically uninformed and deliberately uninformed and deliberately withheld from learning, which is a tactic that the underworld uses so that they can get their ways. If that continues, then what good is democracy? Democracy is then democracy is just a word. It's not real democracy, right? If the public is being masterminded and brain manipulated by the underworld, telling them all kinds of lies, fake news, and targeting each group according to each group's belief system, then that's not very good, right? And that also goes to show how dangerous belief systems are, because people will become a target group of manipulation through that. You want to think for yourself. You want to be free from religion. You want to be a free thinker. You want to be educated. You want to read a lot of books, okay, for that. It's a very responsible thing to read a lot of books. Get informed. Don't only read fiction novels, okay? Read actual books on science, on growing plants, growing food, on herbalism, on all the medicinal plants that are out there. Read books on kindness to animals, how to have the best relationship with your dog, with your horse, okay? It's done through kindness. It's done through real friendship, not through oppression, not through drilling anyone, okay? Not through punishment. It's done through real cooperation and real friendship and a real symbiotic relationship and freedom for everyone, okay? Freedom of mind also, very important. That's how we make the world a better place. Very important information that I'm giving here. Vitally important. Vitally important. Step out of your target group, okay? Think for yourself, learn, get educated, and we need to create a system of education that will empower children, that will make people free thinkers, that will make children and teenagers and adults into compassionate ecologistas and compassionate stewards of the land, compassionate environmentalists, compassionate givers and light bringers, okay? So that more and more and more people will be there that can function individually, that can take over a government. We want a land full of governors, of benevolent governors, okay? People that may be dormantly functioning somewhere but have the overqualification to take on much more at any time. Okay? That's the ideal situation. That's what we want to create. The underworld is afraid of that, what I'm saying, because if we had that, the underworld would fall away. And it is falling away already. It's beginning to fall away. Because more and more people in general are paying attention to this. And because there are more and more light worker and advanced souls coming into existence, and they're coming into an more evolved body and a more evolved brain, and they will help. They are helping with a lot of stuff, more than you can possibly imagine. Okay, so they're all hated by the ones that are governed by the underworld. The underworld tells the public to hate the witches, to hate the hippies, to hate the comrades, to hate the herbalists, to hate the environmentalists. But those are the very people who make our world good. It's the witches, the comrades, the environmentalists, the stewards. All of them, they are making the world well. Okay? So you should appreciate them. Appreciate Elon Musk. Appreciate Donald Trump, who has a whole list of accomplishments in regards to environmental stewardship and animal rights. Okay. Fake news will never tell you that. They withhold that information from you, because the fake news are paid by the underworld to withhold that information from you. Okay, so you never get to hear the accomplishments of Elon Musk and Donald Trump and other great people. You never get to hear it. No, you get systematically brainwashed against them. You get drilled and biased against them by the fake news. Okay. Constantly, if something goes wrong, if there's an accident with the Tesla, it'll be front line everywhere. Focus on it, okay? The limelight on it. It will be blasted out, okay? But if a Honda Civic had an accident, which is, or any of these other cars, right? If they had an accident, if a Maserati or whatever had an accident, you never hear about it. Ever hear about it, ever. Or if even a crime occurred in one of those vehicles, you'll never hear it. Because, you know, the average cars and the race cars, and particularly those that are owned by very ruthless corporations and corporate people, many of them are probably part of the underworld. Okay, so it's all for them. They don't give a fart. I want to use a little better language here. A fart is one step better than the other, right? So I don't want to give a fart. They don't give a fart about the environment, or they don't They don't care the slightest bit about environmental stewardship or what happens when they drill for oil or something like this in the ocean, and then whales dying and stuff like this. These race car manufacturers, they don't care. They're in cahoots with the oil drilling industry, and they are part of the underworld. Okay, so they have their feet in the underworld. So when something happens to their vehicles or their machines or their products, you never hear about it on the news. If someone wants to write about it, some newcomer journalist, they'll get confronted by those people. They'll say, you have two options. You either take our bribe money of $3 million, you can retire then from there on. You don't have to write any more articles. Or we give you $5 million. Or if you still write about it, then, accidents happen. That's how they function. That's how these people function. That's how the underworld functions. So, it's extortion. It's blackmail. They function with threats. Okay. And it's very sad. And most people will give in. Most people cower down, either out of greed or out of fear or both. Yeah. So, but this dynasty of the underworld is coming down now. They are coming down, systematically coming down. As time rolls up, they're coming down. One after another, and that's why I'm saying, if you have been involved in that, blow the whistle. Do it. Do it now. Okay. Clear your name. Blow the whistle. Face the consequence of your actions that you have done in the past. Your cowardness, your giving in, your collaboration. Maybe you've murdered people for the underworld. So come clean, blow the whistle, tell the FBI where they are, snitch on all of them, and take your plea bargain, okay, and cry it out and go on the healing path. So that is how we make the world into a paradise. One step at a time. Okay, we can clean up Venezuela in the most beautiful paradise you can imagine. If people are willing to do it, okay, if they don't think like, oh, I better take the bribe money, oh, I don't care, I pollute, the other one will pollute. No, it starts with you. You don't pollute anymore. You don't take the bribe money anymore. You clean up your place. You teach other people to clean up their place. You help other people to clean up the environment. You participate in cleaning up the beaches. You participate in cleaning up the forest, the palm forests, the habitats for all the other animals. Okay, you do it. It's your duty to all life, to yourself, to your own body. It's your duty for the world. It's your challenge for the world. It's your mission for the world, to make the world well, to create a paradise, to be part of creating the paradise. It's a wonderful thing. It's a class 1 experience. According to Tony Robbins, something that feels really good, something that is good for you, that's healthy, something that is good for others, and something that serves everyone and the greater good. Okay? So, peace and love for all living beings.